Good morning, Drink Less, Feel Fresh family. Tommy Cartwright here, coming to you for this week's episode of the Fresh AF Sessions, the place, the space to kickstart your week feeling fresh AF. You can show up to these calls live, engage, jump into the chat panel, ask any questions along the way, have me personally answer them for you. However, if you're watching this on YouTube, hello, or if you're listening to this on Spotify as you cruise along in your car or doing whatever it is that you're doing, welcome, welcome, welcome. Today, we are diving into the topic of what are the two and the only two reasons why anybody will pick up a beverage. Pretty short, pretty sharp, pretty clear, pretty simple, yet often pretty profound. If you haven't learned this before, it's going to change the way you view alcohol. Not only that, it's probably going to change the way you run any substance abuse experiences, such as over-consuming alcohol, eating too much junk food, watching too much, we could even say watching too much TV, gaming, whatever it might be. And so today we're just going to dive straight into it, which is what are the two reasons why anybody would pick up a beverage, okay? And now, sharing it pretty simply with you, if you want to understand why you pick up a beverage, if you want to understand why you potentially keep drinking, if you want to understand why you tell yourself you're not going to do something, but you end up doing it anyway in regards to your relationship with alcohol, well, we've got to understand the importance that our emotional realm plays on it. I'll tell you what I mean. There's a few experiences that tie into your relationship with alcohol. And today we'll dive into the main one, which is your emotional experience. Okay. So one of the big misconceptions in the alcohol reduction industry is that when people unfortunately become labeled alcoholics, they often, whether they know it or they're doing it consciously or not, they take away choice and freedom from themselves. And they start to believe that they are powerless against this substance, okay? And what that means is that the substance is having a reaction within their body, driving their ability to be attached or feel addicted to it, and then the cravings start, which is the body craving to experience the alcohol, and so that they feel like that a craving has been looked after, okay? So that really ties into your psychology and your psychology and your approach or your relationship with alcohol. What we're talking about today is your emotional attachment to alcohol, okay? Your emotional attachment to alcohol is when you are drinking out of emotional reasons, okay? There are emotional reasons why you're drinking. Now, these don't come separate, by the way. Changing your relationship with alcohol is a really complex thing. And when I say complex, it's beautifully complex. You've got your psychology going on. You've got your emotional realm going on. You've got 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years, depending on how old you are, years worth of contextual experiences that you've experienced, whether it's great times consuming alcohol, whether it's really tough times and using alcohol to deal with it. And the reason why I share that with you is that if anybody teaches you something and says, oh, you should just be able to stop drinking today, then they don't know very much. Okay, so take it really easy on yourself. But one of the things that will really change and help you today is realizing that there's only two reasons why we drink when it comes to our emotional realm, okay? Number one, we drink to enhance emotions, or number two, we drink to diminish emotions, okay? So every single day, 24 hours a day, you are having what's called an emotional experience of life. You are emotionally feeling things all day, every day. You are experiencing an emotional experience. That's what really forms the human being, that we are such emotional creatures. And all day, every day, all you're doing, and this is where habits come into play, is all you're doing is doing your best to enhance those emotions or to diminish those emotions. When we hear great news for the first time, we enhance that emotion by sharing it with someone else. We want to explore it. We want to tap into it. When we're feeling really excited, we want to tell people we're really excited. When we're feeling in love, we want to continue feeling in love. So we do what we can to enhance those emotions. But on the other side of the spectrum, there's also a lot of uncomfortable experiences that we have. And what we want to do there is we want to diminish those emotions. So if we're bored, we want to change what we're doing and we don't want to feel bored. If we're feeling lonely, we generally want to diminish that feeling of feeling lonely and we want to jump onto social media instead, or call a friend, or go and meet some people. Often when we are grieving, the first experience of grief is to diminish it and to avoid it and to get rid of it. We don't want to tap into it and accept it and feel it, etc., etc. That's the main thing that we want to look after, is that any time of day, if you're saying to yourself that you want to drink less or you don't want to drink at all, and you end up picking up a drink, one of the great frames to start looking at your relationship with alcohol through is asking yourself, okay, wow, what am I generally drinking for? Am I drinking to enhance emotions, or am I drinking to diminish emotions? Now, I'll give you an example. One of the myths in regards to the traditional alcohol reduction industry is that traditional and clinical approaches are designed for anybody and everybody who's diminishing emotions. What that means, and please take this as a grain of salt, it's a blanket statement here, kind of summing up a large group, but it's often people feel that they need to go to clinical intervention because they're really struggling, or people that aren't struggling that much feel that clinical intervention isn't for them. And this is why, because a lot of the time, individuals that need and require clinical intervention are at a level of diminishing their emotional state so much that their life is in danger. They're struggling to deal with their emotional state on such a consistent basis that they need to diminish it so often and so much that they are now labeled as being a clinical or clinically diagnosed as an alcoholic who cannot experience life or get through the day without this drug. Does that make sense? I think that's really, really cool and fascinating to understand. Now, I'll give you an example on the other side of things. We have one of our Drink Less, Feel Fresh rebuild members, and they're doing really well. And they hit me up, which when I say they hit me up, they reached out to me on Facebook. They said, Tommy, I got an experience for you. I want to share something with you. And he said, I had a really weird experience. I'm doing really well. I'm not diminishing certain emotions lately with alcohol. I'm experiencing whatever comes up. If I'm bored or lonely or shitty or annoyed or frustrated, I'm just sitting with that. I'm dealing with it. I'm owning it. I'm not running away anymore. But Tom, I've got a question for you. The other day, I had a great day. There was nothing wrong. I did all of the exercises. I practiced my gratitude. I did a bit of meditation. I was feeling so fantastic. And what really surprised me was that I ended up having a couple of beverages with some friends that afternoon. And I said, okay, fantastic. And I taught them what I'm teaching you now. And it kind of blew his world. And I said to him, well, it looks like you weren't diminishing any emotions. It looks like you were tapping into and trying to enhance what felt like such a great day for you. And the minute I said that, he said, oh, gotcha. That's why I really like to settle in when I'm at weddings and engagements and birthdays and experience, often beverages. So those two examples are perfect examples of diminishing emotions by using alcohol or enhancing emotions by using alcohol. Now, what's the biggest key lesson in learning all of this? Well, it's pretty clear, to be honest. It's the biggest key lesson in learning here is why have we learned, or how have we learned to use alcohol as one of our main tools to enhance and diminish emotions? Isn't that interesting? Especially if you're living in Australia, and the majority of first world countries now, majority of them having huge alcohol dependency issues. And this is why we've created cultures where we diminish emotions with alcohol. Struggling, have a beer. Or going through a divorce, can I take you to the pub? Grieving, let me buy your favorite bottle of wine. There's all of these reasons socially that we've created to diminish our emotional experience, unconsciously, of course. And then on the other side of it, everybody knows even better. We've created it to be so socially acceptable to enhance emotions with alcohol. One of the biggest gifts to give people on birthdays, weddings, engagements are bottles of champagne, bottles of wine, bottles of alcohol. Alcohol is such an incredibly overconsumed substance in this culture that it's unfortunate so many people feel alone and isolated when it comes to changing their relationship with alcohol, when we're all force-fed alcohol from such a young age. Take that with a grain of salt. I understand that people may not have had that experience from wherever you're calling in from, but definitely here in Australia, we are force-fed alcohol and addiction and attachment to alcohol from a very, very young age. And no, it's not. I would say it's not intentional. People aren't saying, let's get you addicted to alcohol, but it is everywhere and anywhere. It's as common as having a glass of milk, if not probably more common. It's as common as if people buy a bottle of alcohol more so than they buy bottles of water. So it's a fascinating experience, I think. So those are the two reasons that why anybody would ever drink, which is to diminish an emotion or enhance an emotion. Now, the question that I was alluding to a minute ago was that, or the insight was that if that's what's going on, when am I ever just experiencing my natural emotional state without alcohol? When am I just allowing my body to experience this world and this emotional world that I have within me without alcohol? And the lesson that most people appreciate or get is like, wow, never. And it might be a week, it might be a day, it might be a week, might even be a couple of months. But in the context of a year, most people have never experienced a year with their emotional world without suppressing it or enhancing it with alcohol. And just let that sit for a moment, because that's a huge insight and lesson in learning. When someone often asks me, Tom, why do people become addicted? There's all of these different theories and approaches. This is one of the ones that I share down the line. Well, we've become accustomed to enhancing our emotional state, celebrating, and we've become accustomed to diminishing our emotional state. It's so socially acceptable to diminish emotional states and enhance emotional states. And please, if you're listening to this podcast regarding a different substance that you're struggling with, it goes across the board for so many other beverages and nutritional items, from coffee and caffeine to sugar and junk food. And this isn't a judgment, by the way. At Drink Less, Feel Fresh, we don't look at alcohol as the devil. I'll still have a beverage from time to time. I drank coffee for many years of my life and loved it. I'm only recently off the coffees. However, I can see myself having a couple in the future. I'll just wait and see how that goes. So don't, this isn't a judgment. This is just respectfully how life is. Like we had an incredible new woman call me the other day. When I say new, she just joined our 30-day detox challenge that starts today. And she immediately after our 30-minute onboarding call, which is a setup call you have with me to make sure you're ready to crush the detox challenge, she posted in the Facebook group and said, wow, I feel so good about this journey. And because we'd only just met, she's kind of spoke like this. She said, this Tom Cartwright guy, he's just so honest. And that really made my day, because it's one of the best, feedbacks I can ever hear is that honesty. And from this call, like real applicable approaches to alcohol. Most people don't want to have this conversation. They just want to say, oh, everyone's happy with their drinking. And if you're not happy, well, you're an addict. So you've got an issue. You've got to deal with it somewhere else. No, that's not how this works. That is not how this works. We are all consuming different food and beverages and drinks to either enhance or diminish our emotional state. That is it. From an emotional attachment point of view, that is it. And another two words that I wrote down here that I wanted to share with you, enhance, you can also use the word express, and diminish, you can also use the word suppress. Okay, so you're either expressing your emotional state or you're suppressing your emotional state. These are the two reasons why people drink. They want to suppress their emotional states, or they want to express their emotional states. Everybody knows what it's like to have such a long day and feel really tired and really shitty and real annoyed and don't want to feel it. So you suppress it. You have two drinks and the feeling goes away. Your emotional feeling, you become numb emotionally. You still switched on logically. You're still thinking things, but those emotions go away. I speak to a lot of, everyday, hardworking Australian mums who say, Tom, now that I'm learning this, I'm realizing that this is why I have wines at the end of the day, Tom. I hear this comment a lot. I just come home. It's a long day. I need to get the kids' dinner ready and start looking after the homework. And just the one glass of Sauv Blanc just diminishes the feeling of being tired and even irritated. And it feels like I have more presence and even patience for my family. I say, of course. Well, why wouldn't you be drinking? It just makes sense, doesn't it? So, and then of course everybody understands what it feels like to be, feeling on top of the world and excited, and you're at an airport, or you're going to you're traveling the world, or whatever it is. You're one of your favorite person's birthdays or engagements or the celebration. Everyone knows what that feels like. Is we want to express that, and we use alcohol to express it. We use alcohol to become intoxicated and hug and laugh and cry together. So my number one question for you is, where do you spend most of your drinking time? Is it to suppress and diminish emotional states, or is it to enhance and express emotional states? And some of you will say, wow, I think I'm suppressing a lot of the time. And some of you will say, I think I'm expressing a lot of the time. And those are the two biggest, how would I say, pictures or contexts we experience, the different ones that we experience in our communities. People saying, yeah, I'm suppressing a lot. Or people, we had a young guy join us about 3 to 4 weeks ago. He said, Tommy, I feel like everything's pretty good. Like, that's what's killing me about this drinking thing. It's just every now and then when I go out and I socialize, and it's a great event, it's very exciting, I have a few drinks, and I taught this young guy this approach, and it changed his world. He's like, oh, wow, I had no idea that I just learned to connect with friends and family with alcohol. And he said, he's sure it can be that simple. And I said, yeah, it can be. You don't need to overcomplicate this. You don't have to get diagnosed as an alcoholic just because you're trying to change your relationship with yourself and you can't. Excuse me. It's a quick band-aid fix to automatically, if someone says, oh, look, I'm really trying to change my relationship with alcohol, I can't. It is a disgusting approach that we have in this country where we say to people, oh, you're just an alcoholic. And I'm not saying that individuals aren't alcoholics. I'm not saying that at all. There's many individuals who are alcoholics and would like to identify as being alcoholics. And that's fantastic if it works for you. But to tell someone they're an alcoholic and they can't change it just because, they're potentially expressing and connecting their emotional state whilst drinking, like, it's just lack of education, lack of information, and not wanting to have these real honest conversations with people. So my question for you to leave you with for today is are you drinking to suppress or are you drinking to enhance your emotional state? And my follow-up question to that is, are you prepared to get to know yourself? Which is, are you prepared to experience this thing we call life emotionally without using alcohol to enhance or suppress? And one of the things that I'll let you think about for a moment is it's completely okay to increase the quality in which you do enhance or suppress your emotional state. Don't ask yourself to be, the Dalai Lama. Don't ask yourself to become a meditative monk who spends 23 hours of the day meditating. That's not generally an applicable approach. Just ask yourself, is there a better way in which I can diminish emotions if I don't want to deal with them? And is there a better way to enhance emotions if I want to share them with people? So for example, you might feel tired, and a way to diminish that emotion is, instead of having a wine, you might tell your family or your kids or your colleagues or something that you need a day off. You might, take what's called a more resourceful approach to diminishing that emotion. You might come home after a long day and just feel shitty and annoyed. And instead of drinking, you might think, great, so I'm trying to get rid of annoyed. I could go for a walk. And so that's why I like to share real practical, approachable ways to dealing with your emotions. This is so much more advanced and deeper than I should drink and I shouldn't drink. No, you have a beautiful emotional world that you're trying to look after. And the other side of things, how can you enhance your emotional state? I'll give you an example and then we'll wrap up. One of the things that I used to do when I'd come home would be shitty, annoyed, tired, been a long day or whatever it was, and I'd switch off with alcohol. Okay. The other thing that I'd want to do when I was growing up is I would have a great day and I'd get excited and I'd want to share that with people. And so I'll take people to the pub. I'd say, let's meet up at the pub. These days, if I ever come home, especially these days now that I have children, if I ever come home and I'm feeling those things, I often know that just taking my kids for a walk dramatically reduces any cravings or wanting or desires of picking up a beverage. And the reason why is because I'm tapping into those emotional states in a healthy, functional way. Notice the practicality of this. There's still a world that you've got to experience. You've still got to get your job done. You've still got to do the chores at the house. We've still got to look after kids. We've got to look after partners. We've got to connect with our partners. If we're not with partners, we've got to deal with ourselves alone. We've got houses to look after. We've got things to look after. You are an emotional being walking through this planet. Never discredit that. I think one of the biggest problems in the traditional alcohol reduction industry is we do discredit that. We just say, oh, no, it's not all that, it's the alcohol. No, it's not all that, it's the alcohol. No. Number one, are you drinking to diminish emotions? Are you drinking to enhance emotions, or a little bit of both? And number two, are you prepared and willing to get to know yourself to the extent that you are curious to enhance or diminish emotional states without alcohol? And if you endeavor to go on this journey, give it 6 months, 12 months. I generally say 6 to 12 month window is the best length of time to change your relationship with alcohol. But give it 6 months, 12 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and you'll look back to now and your life will be completely different. And not just because you said, yay, I'm never drinking again, because you said, I'm prepared to experience my emotional world without suppressing it so often, which is what we do in this culture so often. Trust you love that one. Here's to drinking less and feeling fresh. Have an incredible day. See you same time, same place next week. Bye for now.